Hi, my name is Chris Hunter and I'm going to show you through the software that is supplied with our optical hrem systems. We're just going to have a quick run through of the main menu and a few of the sub-menus. If you have any questions, just contact us through the website. First thing we see here is we see an hrem image that has been acquired. This is a previous run image. If we were running the system for real, we would have some current run images, or we could just look at the live feed from the camera. So the setting up of the camera is done down here, and we can have, depending on how many channels that we're going to run, and we'll go into that a bit later, so we can have two different fluorescent channels here. We would set up the cameras differently, so we can set the exposure time and the gain and so on. We need to have then the light sources switched on, and the X stage is the cutting stage, so we select that and we can move around and set up our sample. So this, for example, would be where we would save the start cut and the end of cut. So if you had a smaller sample, you would put in smaller numbers for example, first position and end position. You can also put in the speed of the cut, so we can vary that for all sorts of reasons. The Z stage, this is moving the sample up and down, so this is moving the sample so that we can actually make the cut. And then we have some filter wheel settings, so we can set up our emission and excitation filter wheels. And there's an output window here that's just telling us what's going on as we go. So let's now go up to the top left here and have a look at the experiment. So we want to set up our own experiment. We have a sort of a pre-experiment section here. We call it prepare, and we can put in a number of sections here, and that allows us to cut the top off of our block so that actually we get the whole machine running nice and smoothly, and we actually get to the point where we can start to see some sample appear in our block. When we're happy with that, we can press the run button and the experiment would start. Okay, we're going to say this is where we might save our data, and then we would tell it where the folder is and what the name of the first image is going to be. Experiment, so we have experiment parameters now, and we would now give it some detail on the experiment that we're about to run. So for some experiments we may have different filter wheels or different LEDs or whatever. So if we just bring this down here, we can see that we can have different cut thicknesses. So 5 microns is maybe quite sensible. A lot of people might use 3. You can go all the way down to a micron. Most people would work maybe at 1.5 to 5 microns. And it'll then give us some information on the total depth. So if we cut 1787 sections, we would be looking then at a depth of 5 millimeters. So we have to measure that to make sure we don't go too far down from the end of the block. While the machine is running, it'll give us some information here, and once it's kicked off, at the top we will have an estimated remaining time, and this means that we could kick it off and say I could come back in 3 or 4 hours, whatever. Of course you can run it overnight or come back in 3 or 4 hours, and we can see that from estimated time once the experiment started running. Here we set up our illumination and emission, and we give it the name that we want. So maybe this could be a GFP, for example. And then we've got some different image formats that we can store in. So let's go back up here and have a look at settings. So the experiment now is all ready to go, and we would now be able to just press the go button. If we wanted to reuse these parameters, we could just load an existing experiment and maybe modify some of these parameters if we wanted to. So you don't have to put the data in every time. Back to settings. There are a whole load of things to do with setting up the machine and how we want it to run that we can change in here. The most important one maybe is how many filters are we going to have? 1, 2, 3, up to 6 that we could have. So how many images are we going to have per section? So we would take one image, change the filter, take the next. This will tell us how many of those we're going to do. And we can use an emission filter wheel or not use an emission filter wheel. Maybe if you have LEDs, you don't want to use an emission filter wheel every time. Depends on your experiment. Okay, so there's a bit of information down here on the instrument panel, which tells us that whether we've got light connected and filter wheels and the cameras and so on, a sort of status display there. So it's all about creating these images here, and if you give us a call, phone numbers on the website, or send us an email, I'll be pleased to talk to you in a lot more detail.